in Vancouver, in, like, pre-gentrified Main Street, like, right off the edge of Main 22nd, in the middle floor of, like, a duplex house. It was small. It was me, my sister, my mom, and my dad. When I think about it, I think I had a pretty good childhood. It was happy. I was oblivious. Happy, I don't know. Because a lot of the time when I feel sad, I'm like, wow, this is very nostalgic of my childhood. I haven't felt this much pain since I was, like, 5. So, but I guess we feel the most intense when we're little. I spent a lot of my time watching, like, cartoons. I think, I started watching Seinfeld really young. I feel like that really impacted my life. The TV partially raised me and my sister.
How did I grow up? I grew up in the suburbs. So, yeah, I grew up in a small town outside of Vancouver, in Tsawwassen, and in Richmond. So pretty insular, pretty small town, very kind of isolated and secluded. Definitely a tomboy as a kid. I always hung out with the guys and always really liked kind of like building and forts and sports and all of that. And I've always like been pretty steadily kind of tomboyish, and it was only in my teenage years where I started to realize that was something like outside the norm, and only in comparison to the people around me. So yeah, I think even into adulthood I was still pretty masculine in my like choice of clothing and things, and the things that I like to do. But now as an adult I'm less conscious or self-conscious about it. It doesn't really affect me, or I never kind of put myself up against those other kind of more norm or heteronormative kind of culture.
Oh, I guess I've always felt like I've had someone, like when I'm by myself, I'm never really by myself in a good way, where I've always had someone with me, but I've never given it a name. But then I started like talking about it with myself, or writing about it, or telling my friend about it, and I guess I started calling them my angels, but I don't really know what they are. I've had people tell me, oh, it's a spirit guide, but that sounds like such a white hippie way to put it. But it's just like, I call them my angels affectionately. But they basically just send me messages, or like send me symbols of what's going on, or just different ways to organize my life, or like to see how things are going through like colors or numbers.
Yeah, I'd say like I'm really passionate right now, in general, I guess, about fostering like safe spaces and inclusive spaces. It seems like something kind of silly, but like the dodgeball league that we run, like it's a queer, trans, and like allies league for people of all genders. And I mean, it's a dodgeball. It's silly. It's like adults in an elementary school gym throwing balls at each other. And that's what it is on the surface. But when you kind of look at it up close, it's safe space for people to be like in their bodies, and whatever body that is. And like everyone's welcome. And it's a lot of different like subsects of the queer community kind of coming together.
I guess I attract a lot of people, like friends in my life, that are hurting, or like a lot of hurt people. And that, I don't know, in my experience, they're hurt people that still, like, I wouldn't consider myself, like, I've been pretty closed off, and just like, I rely on myself most of the time, but I don't really have problems that are significant, or else that, like, from my life, that's how I've like seen myself. But the people that I've attracted as friends don't necessarily want to open up to me, because I feel like hurting people want other hurting people. And I guess the first time that like was a big thing was when I was 12, and my best friend at the time, like, I genuinely don't really know what happened, because she didn't tell me anything, but I like have a basic premise. Like, she'd start, like, I knew from, this was around when we were 12 and we had, like, started to have social media. But I gathered that she wasn't doing good, and I kind of got from ulterior sources, like I found out not through her, that she was self-harming, and then she started, like it started to get worse and worse, where she would come to school and there'd be blood coming down her wrists, and like her shirt would be soaked through, but she still wouldn't tell me, like we wouldn't talk about it, we both knew. And like I saw her talking to other people through this like forum app for like sad youths. Like, how do I tell my friend what's wrong? And I, like, now in retrospect, I can remember her trying to tell me, and I guess it didn't work out, or like I said something that went wrong, or like there's somehow, I don't know, I just remember it not happening. It got to a point where she was always arguing with one teacher, or like crying in the room with another teacher, and I'd just be standing between the rooms, and I'd like ask, like, are you okay? But there was this like tension in the air that like I'm not supposed to know something was wrong, even though she's obviously like dripping blood and crying all the time.
I guess what stops me sometimes is worrying about what other people will think. I think what stops me sometimes too is that I am not very impulsive. I sometimes overthink things, and then therefore lose an opportunity because I need to percolate and think on it too long. I guess I would say sometimes my biggest struggle is my own self-doubt, or my own kind of nervousness or willingness to put myself out there. And like, I mean, maybe in some ways that stems from like being a kid who was closeted, and being a queer person, you always have to like be coming out all the time in almost every new situation, and kind of always having a little bit of a barrier or a wall between you and people.
A part of me wants to say all my happiness has come from other people, and like my friends and parts of my family that have given me a lot of love. But other part of me wants to say that my greatest happinesses have come from like exploring within myself. And I think it's a balance of the two. Because like the reason I can connect with other people in that way is because of what's in me, and the reason that I can explore myself like that is because of all the teachings and gifts that like those other people have like given me throughout life, from like me being able to explore being human with them.
Right now, the best part of my day is hanging out with my daughter. Yeah, right now I'm loving being a mom. It's everything just seems so immediate and so simple. Like the faces, the reactions, it's just so instinctive to be like watching her grow, watching her like change and develop. And yeah, there's nothing forced. There's no social constructs. There's no fakeness. It's just like being, and it makes you be present.
I remember yesterday I was feeling really bad, and then I sat down and I thought through all the parts of my body and all the colors and all this like energy in there, and I got to the part at the top where there's a lot more that spreads out, and there's things that I'll never know, I'll never understand, but they're there. And it's that like almost magic part that you don't really get to see as much, like when you're a kid, it's like second nature. But that, yeah, the possibility and the magic and the thought that there's more than what we can see